Welcome to the part 2 of the Generate Yearly Report exercise. So in the part 1, we were able to configure our config file and create the System1 login. So before you finish this one, make sure to remove the default value of the argument that we use to test the sequence, and then save the sequence. So now let's go and work on the next item, which should be the System1 Close. So for the System1 Close, we need to create new sequence. Let's name it System1 Close and browse for the System1 folder path. Here, select that folder, hit create button, and so you need to have this page open for the meantime. So the first item or activity is we need the attached browser, and select this page. So you can see here on the selector it captured the title, which is Acme System1 dashboard, but there are times where you need to close this application when you are inside the work item page. And if you can notice here, the page title was changed to Acme System1 work item. So if you just use this selector, you might receive an error upon running the program. So to make sure that this selector will be flexible, we need to use a wildcard. So to do that, let's just remove this changing value. So let's use the asterisk symbol. So that's called the wildcard. So instead of looking for a specific word dashboard or work item, so as long as it found the static words Acme System1, it will be able to handle this page. Okay, so if you click validate, you can see that even if we use wildcard and we are under work item page, or even when we are on the dashboard page, it's working. So hit OK, and then we need the click activity, and click this log out, and then after that we need to use the close tab. So it basically close this page. So that's all that we have for System1 Close. There's no argument that need to be created in here, so make sure to save that. Now we'll go to the System1 navigate to work item. So let's create new sequence, System1 navigate work item, and again look for the System1 folder path and hit the create button. So it's just a click activity. Look for the click and then indicate the press escape when you are directed to a wrong page, then go back to the studio, indicate it again, and indicate the work item button. So that's all that we have for the navigate work item sequence. Make sure to save that, close that file, and the next one is so let's skip this one. So I think I may have another video for the send email XML file, but I think we're good with the System1 components. So we'll go on to the init application file. So to do that, go to project, look for init all application, and then we need to invoke 2XML, so the login and navigate to work items. So to do that, go to the System1 folder, or the System1 folder here, look for the login, drag it there, and the navigate work item, and make sure to bind those arguments. So here in the login we need 2 arguments, so use imconfig and System1 URL, and it should be converted to string. The next one is imconfig System1 credential. So these are the name that we have on the config file, which I did on the first part of this PG tutorial. So in the navigate work item, there's no argument needed, so make sure to save that and go to close all application. So we need to invoke system1.close, save that, and then kill all process. So this one is the kill all process, then use the kill process activity. Excuse. And then in the process name, use iExplorer or the Internet Explorer. Okay, make sure to save that and close the sequence. Now we'll need to go to the get transaction data framework. So here in the project, double click this get transaction data to open that XML. We need to delete this because we're not going to get any item from the orchestrator queue. And okay, I think I need to change this later, but let's see if we will be having an error on that. And then here, before the right transaction, we need to add an attach browser activity. So go to activity, look for the attach browser, and we need to attach the work item page. So we need to be on this page. We need to attach this, and then we need to add an element access activity to check if the next page is available. Okay, so in here we will be using a dynamic we need to have a variable that will represent a dynamic selector, but first we need to indicate the next page number. So let me create a variable here. Next page should be an integer, and then before we use the element access, I'll be using assign. So next page should be equal to the IN transaction number plus 1. And then we need to have another variable. Let's name this dynamic selector, and it should be a string. So we need to check if the next page exists. So for example, we are at process number 1, the next page is number 2. So let's look for element access, indicate the next page. So we need to get this selector. I think we should use UI Explorer. So we can capture a more detailed type of selector. So we will use class, and I think we can use and we can use this ANM. Is that the same with the document? ANM and tag. Yep, we need to copy this and assign that to our selector. So we need here to have an assign again, assign activity. Prior the element exists, we will assign the value to dynamic selector. So here we need a and let me see if it's okay. No, we need to have it in one line. So here we need to change this AA name into whatever the value of the next page. So to do that, we'll be using a concatenation. Since INT transaction number is a integer variable, we need to convert that to string. And there. And here, instead of using a static selector, we will change this to Control A delete. We will assign whatever the value of dynamic selector. Alright. So we need to have an output here. So let's create a direct variable. Next page exists. Hit enter and click OK. So if the next page exists, we need to use an if activity. And here, so if next page exists, we need to set the out transaction item to the value of the current page. So we need to have another assign activity in here. Then here is the out transaction item, and it should be equal to the value of the current page, which is the IN transaction number. So we need to convert it to string. If not, our transaction item should be set to nothing. So let me just copy this and paste it here. And let's just change the value to nothing. Why? What's the error? Our transaction item is a string, while we can assign nothing. Let's just use a blank. Why we can assign nothing? I don't understand. Yeah, it's not allowing me to use nothing, so let me just put an empty string. So I think that's all that we have for the get transaction data. Can we test this? Not yet. Alright, so later we can test this sequence. So save that for now and close that workflow. The next step is the process XML. We need to open that with project and double click process XML file. So we need to use a click activity to select the processing page number. So before we click that, we need to attach the work item page first. So look for the attach browser activity, and here indicate the work item page, and then we will need to click the next page. So indicate the next page element. Oops, I need to scroll down first. Indicate again, for example number 2, but it should have another dynamic selector, so we need to create another variable in here. Let's name it dynamic selector. Again, it should be a string, and let's use assign activity before the click activity. So here let's use dynamic selector. Let's copy the current selector of the click activity, copy that, and then here, what are the arguments that we have in here? Ion transaction item. Okay, so here we need to change this to whatever the value of ion transaction item. So it's already a string, so no need to convert that. Okay, and then here instead of using a static selector, we will be using the selector inside the dynamic selector variable. Alright, we need to add an on element activity to check if processing page was open. So on element appear, and so once the next page is clicked, as you can see the CSS of the page number did also change, so that will be our trigger to tell to the program that the next page is open. So we need to indicate that element. Okay, I think it would be better if we use the UI Explorer so we can capture more attributes of that element. Indicate the element. So as you can see here, you will have all the available attributes. I think this is important to use the class, and I think that's the only important there. Close that one, and here let's change the selector. So I think we also need to use a dynamic selector in here. So we need to look for the assign, put that in here, and let's use the same variable. So here we need to change the AA name value to the value of IN transaction number or IN transaction item. And we will put that selector in here. Okay, so I think we should set this to false. Oops, wrong spelling. And I think it should be none or interactive. Later we'll see if we will be having an error or issue using this activity. So once the page is loaded, so the next item that we need to do is to scrape the table. Okay, so for example, we're at page 1. So we need to scrape the data. Data scraping, use the data scraping, and then hit next and select any cell from this table, and then it will ask you if you want to select the full table. So just hit yes and click finish. and if you need to navigate to the next page, you need to click yes, but since we just capture what's on the page, so we need to click no in here. Okay, so let's put that inside the do of the on element appear, and we need to change the data table output variable to dt work items. Hit enter and okay. You can see that dt work items is created with a data table variable type. The next step is to upload all WID for all versions of script data. Okay, so we need to look through the DT work items data table and then filter all the items under WI4 and open status. So let's do that outside the on element appear. Need to use for each row. So in the DT work items, okay, so the DT work item is not yet accessible, so we need to assign the scope to process transaction. Let's use DT work items, and then we need to have an if condition in here. So the row type to equal should be WI4, and row status should be equals to open. So that will be our condition. If yes, we need to add the item to the queue. So here we need to indicate the queue name, so it should be the orchestrator queue name in our config file, and you need to change the item information to let me check if I did that correctly. Yep, hit OK. So anything that we need to add here? What's this? Open the next one. Okay. Okay, so once you did that, should be good now. And then here, as you can see, once we first navigate to the work item, we cannot click the first page. So we need to have a condition here that this click action should only be enabled if the page is greater than 1. So we need to add an if activity. So if IM transaction item that equals, no, since this is a string, so if it's equals to 1, then there's no need to activate the click activity. It will automatically go and look for the page. So if it exists, then navigate the data or perform the data scraping. And if it's under the condition type WI4 and the status is open, then add that to the queue item. So the orchestrator queue name depends on the value of the orchestrator name on our config file. So make sure that you have created here in the orchestrator queue the same name that you input on the config file. So I think we're good on the wait. I think okay, later we'll see that. So we'll see if we have any issue. Let me go back to the get transaction data first. I think I need to have an increment here. So I need to increment the transaction number. So let me use an assign. And transaction number should be incremented to transaction number plus 1, right? Okay, so as you can see here, one of the output argument is transaction item. Okay, let's see if we will have any issue. So let's run it by using, let me close this page first. And one last check, make sure to check the invoke of the process. Are you using the correct value here yet? So go to main. So I will be using the debug instead of run, so we can see the progress of the program if there will be any issue. Okay. Okay, it did lag out because why? Okay, no more transaction data. Why? Maybe because of power condition inside the get transaction data. So let me check that. So here in the get transaction data, out transaction item. So by default, out transaction item is nothing. So I think we need to change this to ion transaction number is greater than or equal to 1, because by default we have a 1. Alright, if we change that to 1, what will happen? Let me save this and go back here. I think we need to use an if statement in here that, remember, if the next page did not exist, meaning that it's the end of the process. So we need to check the out transaction item or the transaction item. If it equals to a blank string, then we no longer need to increment the transaction number. Instead, we'll assign transaction number equals to 0, so that once it go back to the get transaction data, the condition will not met. Save that and try to run it via debug again. Okay, it seems that it's working now. Oh yes. Alright. I think we made it, but we need to make sure, so after this I'll check the orchestrator queue. If our dispatcher framework is successful. We're almost finished. Let's click the last page. Script. Alright. Okay, so I'm not sure what just happened. Should be finished now. Let me check the UI Studio. Alright, maybe because here, what's the selector? Oh yeah, there's no more selector, means it's the end of the process. So it's almost successful, but it should not be like that. Alright. So let me stop this and let's check our orchestrator first. Let me refresh this. So you can see we have now 11 items in here. So to check that, just click view transaction, and here on the information icon we can see that we have now 2073. I think that's on page 13. Let me just validate if it was able to capture correct data. What's the number again? It's 27734. System 27734 here. And there's no WI4 in here. Same here. Oh. There's WI4. Oh, 27734. So it was able to capture the last item under WI4. So I think it's because of the condition. So let's get transaction data. I think it should accept nothing. I don't understand why it's not. Oh yeah. I'm not sure what just happened, why it accept it now. So let's save that and go back here. Let's change the condition here. transaction item is not nothing, we will increment, else we will assign 0. Save it, and I think let me remove these items for now to refresh our queue. Oh, it still show, but let me copy that and delete this for now so we can have a fresh queue. Okay, we don't have any item again. Let me close this. Oh, that will successfully close our framework now. We close the other sequence in here, and let's run it. Yep, it's able to close it successfully. Okay, process finished due to no more transaction data. So transaction number 14 because 13 is our last page and we are continuously incrementing. So before I check the orchestrator queue, let me count how many WI4 items do we really have in here. So page 1 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and yeah, we just only have 11 items. Okay, let me check the orchestrator now. Hit refresh. Yeah, we have 11 items in here. So that's all for the performer framework. I hope that you were able to capture all the important part of the framework and those items that we debug, we fix. So if you have any question, please comment on the section below, and make sure to subscribe please on this channel. So I will be creating a separate video for the performer process of the generate yearly report exercise. Thank you for watching.